I recently had the pleasure of rewatching 1982's Gandhi, directed by Richard Attenborough. I decided I would pay it homage on this modest program. Cinematically downstream of David Lean, Gandhi is a monumental epic film. The most discussed aspect of this film is Ben Kingsley's titular performance, and for good reason. Kingsley's acting is powerfully believable, and he brings life to a figure we in the 21st century mostly know from black and white photographs. The magnitude of this production is spectacular. Opting for scope and enormity rather than cinematographic experimentation, Attenborough's camera frames Gandhi as a small man defiantly marching into the gigantic maw of the reigning structures towering over him. He is an identifiable spectre amongst a painterly landscape, the vector of a massive crowd, or as the modestly dressed humanist in the judgment of hierarchical establishment suits. My favourite aspect of this film is the aforementioned scope, to the point wherein it is probably a cliché where discussion of 1982's Gandhi is concerned. Attenborough's Gandhi is very famous for having swept the Academy Awards celebrating the best of 1982. He won Best Picture, Director, Actor, Original Screenplay, Art Direction, Cinematography, Costume Design, and Editing, and was nominated for Best Makeup, Original Score, and Sound Design. I decided, for a bit of fun, to see how Gandhi actually compares to the other nominees, because normally I would think, oh, of course Gandhi would be better than all of the other nominees, especially in the production categories. But let's have a look. The only other Best Picture nominee that year which competes with Gandhi, for me, is Costa Gavras' Missing. That is a tough one. This applies to Best Actor as well, in lieu of Jack Lemmon's phenomenal performance in Missing. For Best Director, Costa Gavras did not receive a nomination, although Wolfgang Petersen did for Das Boot. Das Boot is another nominee, which for me can readily compete with Attenborough's Gandhi. Gandhi's screenplay is certainly superior to what E.T., Dinah, An Officer and a Gentleman, and Tootsie have to offer. Cinematography is also a case wherein Gandhi and Das Boot are competing for me, as is editing. Production design, well, Gandhi versus Blade Runner. Well, that's tricky. Costume design, Gandhi easily, although I do appreciate Tron. Losing makeup to Quest for Fire. I mean, I love Quest for Fire, but I don't know. Gandhi certainly also received Best Score for Ravi Shankar and George Fenton. I'm listening to Ravi Shankar as I type all of this up. I paused it so I could record this. Sound design itself, Gandhi versus Das Boot versus Tron. That's tough, versus the other two nominees being E.T. and Tootsie. E.T. I can understand. Fine sound design, impressive sound design. E.T. is the one that actually won. But Tootsie nominated Best Sound Design? I don't get that. And so that's that. Narratively, I must say that I also find Gandhi to be a very inspiring, uplifting, powerful film. I find it to be all of the things that the taglines claim it to be on the posters and on subsequent DVD releases, showcasing all of the aforementioned Oscar accolades. Some are more cynical about this film, claiming it to be an act of hagiography, treating its historical subject as a saint, rather than taking a more nuanced approach. I personally always felt as though this film attempted to depict its subject as imperfect, although there are claims that this film neglected certain more controversial aspects of Mohandas or Mahatma Gandhi's life and belief system. I think this is a film that romanticizes Gandhi, to be certain, focusing on his net positives as an individual human being. I know that many have criticized/accused, for example, the Indian state's treatment of Gandhi as a martyr in order to justify a certain authoritarianism, and I understand why those who hold passionate views about the wider, socio-political discourse wherein a film like this emerges, I can understand why those might hold the film in some contempt. Although I have always noted that the popular figure of Gandhi, at least internationally in my own personal experience, the popular figure, as the masses know him, as the people who I would speak to on the street know him, they know him as someone who advocated pacifism, non-violence, and tolerance. Now, if any iconic persona in the popular culture ought to embody anything, especially amongst the myriad of troubling recognizable figures of the 20th century, it might as well be that. We ought to be grateful that Mohandas Gandhi was able to spread his basic, prevalently recognized ideas to the point of ubiquity, because this world would almost certainly be a more miserable, selfish place without the emergence of a popular, influential figure like Gandhi. Gandhi has become an icon of peace and love, so to speak, and one who has appealed to those of all faiths, or even those without. even reduced to quotes shared on social media. Figures like Gandhi and others like him, say MLK, Baha'u'llah, or the Dalai Lama, would surely have a net positive on the mentality of those who receive them into their psyche, even as basic quotes you see shared on your Facebooks or your Twitters or whatever the hell. One can hope, anyway. Gandhi is a film which promotes charity, kindness, sympathy, and dignity. One might feel cynical about its allegedly bourgeoisie, former colonial origins, or prospective propagandist funding by the Indian government or Hindu nationalism, whatever you want to accuse. But for those interested in pure cinema and the power of cinema to convey grand, epic morality plays, in many ways this was the genesis of the feature film itself back in the silent era, I feel as though Richard Attenborough's Gandhi is essential viewing. I absolutely love this film. I remember at some point on Peep Show, Mark Corrigan describes a sick day as cuddling up in a blanket and watching Gandhi. I like that sentiment. I'd recommend this film to absolutely anyone. All audiences are applicable. Thank you all. Have a great one.